been a long time since I randomly decided to start a game on a whim and walked out of it thinking, man, that was one of the most beautiful things I've played in such a long time. This was mine, and I imagine thousands of others' experience with Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Admittedly, when the game was first revealed, and even with each trailer, I remember not caring all too much or finding any intrigue in what I was seeing. But then after its release, the reviews were glowing, and it was as if overnight it had carved itself a place among the greats. People were already whispering its name in the same breath as Final Fantasy and Persona. And throughout the past year, I'd started playing through the Final Fantasy games myself, starting with 6 and making my way over to 10 just before I started Expedition. I'd fallen in love with each of the worlds and the characters in them, and prior to Final Fantasy, my only experience with JRPGs or turn-based combat was with Chrono Trigger and Skies of Arcadia. I familiarized myself more with them through Final Fantasy until I made it to Expedition 33. So I dove in not knowing what to expect. I had no idea what kind of story or experience was waiting on the other side. I only knew what other people were saying, how this is a love letter to the classic Final Fantasy games. So I just pressed start and let myself in.
Clair obscur, trouveras-tu, trouveras effet. Clair obscur, dans les hauts peintures, trouveras sans elle. Clair obscur, trouveras-tu, trouveras effet. Clair obscur, dans les hauts peintures, trouveras sans elle.
So, the story of Expedition 33 began all the way back in 2019. We've all heard the tale of triumph on Twitter or other spaces by now, of how this game was created by former Ubisoft employees who were unsatisfied with their time at the company. Not long before the pandemic started, Guillaume Broche worked in Ubisoft. He'd been there since 2017, working on projects such as Ghost Recon Breakpoint and The Division 2 as an associate producer. He would resign from his position in September of 2020, stating that he was simply bored at Ubisoft. He'd already come up with the idea for the game by that point, but pitching it to the higher-ups at Ubisoft wouldn't have achieved much for him, and even if they'd approved it, it would have taken 2 decades or more. Projects like these, with new IPs, original stories, completely original characters, are super hard to push through in a big company. There are a lot of approval steps, and in general, in big structures, you already have to have proven yourself and be pretty high up in the hierarchy, just to have a chance at pitching this kind of project. For me, a project like this would have taken 25 years to make in a big company, and I don't really have that much patience. We also wanted to do things our own way and really create an atmosphere. That's what this game is, creating a vibe. That's when he knew he had to get out, and after September 2020, he started to create his little team. The plan was clear, a passion project, a JRPG inspired by his childhood favorite, Final Fantasy. The first 2 to go with him were fellow Ubisoft dev Tom Guillermin and his friend Francois Maurice. The 3 co-founders brought Sandfall Interactive to life, and a number of other devs and creators joined the team shortly thereafter to begin working on the game, comprised of names from Reddit and ArtStation. Bit by bit, the game developed. At first, it was on Unreal Engine 4, but a few years in, they managed to secure a partnership with Kepler Interactive to not only publish the game, but help with funding. The project moved to Unreal Engine 5 to achieve a more high-fidelity look for the game. Generally, Unreal Engine 5 is not appreciated by most players. Choppy performance, lack of identity, sacrificing art style for realism, and while for the most part I agree, I think Expedition 33 broke this, giving the game such a unique and beautiful look, making sure every character design, every set piece, every detail not only looked gorgeous, but had an identity, one that looks and breathes Expedition 33. And with the partnership and funding with Kepler, the team grew into 30 or so developers, all putting their heart and soul into this project, some of which were more former developers from Ubisoft. Some were freelancers from other countries like South Korea. And the final piece of the puzzle was the voice actors. Talented icons like Charlie Cox, Andy Serkis, Jennifer English, and the incredible Ben Starr all had roles to play in Expedition 33.
Verso is
fleshing out its characters and bringing them to life in an absolutely phenomenal way. There were a few years of development, refinement, and narrative and setting changes from the team, as they tackled steampunk, sci-fi, zombies, and aliens, and so much more before finally heading into the direction we all know and love today. In June of 2024, the game was finally revealed. Everything looked absolutely gorgeous. Excitement was in the air, and soon after, on the 22nd of March 2025, the game went gold. Coincidentally, 33 days before its release date. On April 24th, 2025, the world got its hands on Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and it spread like wildfire. People couldn't stop talking about it. Screenshots, clips, praise, it was everywhere. Finally, I caved. I knew I had to try it, I had to see for myself, and it was one of the best damn decisions I've made all year. As you may already know, Expedition 33 is a turn-based RPG, but not exactly a traditional one, as it introduces a good number of real-time mechanics. Now, it's not active time battle by any means like the PS1 Final Fantasy games. More so, offense is turn-based while defense is not. So when you're choosing attacks, skills, items, etc., you have time to think about your move. Pick from menus, and then the attack plays out. There's no ATB bar pushing you forward, you act when it's your turn. But when you're defending, that's when you have to react in real time to enemy attacks, and choose from a variety of different defense options. Let's go over the core combat and characters. The first 3 of 5 playable characters in the game are Gustave, Luna, and Maelle, each of them boasting a different set of abilities and their own skill trees. You have these things called ability points, AP for short, which increase with each action you perform mid-battle, allowing you to perform skills for higher damage. This system is absolutely great because it encourages you to constantly perform at your best, as you don't only earn AP from basic attacks, but also from dodging, parrying, and gradient counters. The game rewards your reflexes and allows you to hit harder hitting attacks that use more AP. And speaking of, yes, you have a few different defensive options, some for specific attacks and enemies, some universal. Dodging works for pretty much every enemy attack in the game and is the safest option to go for. The general trick is to at first dodge every enemy attack, and once you've got the rhythm down, you can start to parry and counterattack. You'll encounter most enemies far more than just once throughout the game and will spend a while battling each boss fight, giving you plenty of time to get used to all their attacks. The game will still fuck with you on that front though. Dude, what the fuck was that? Another great thing to note is that while parrying and dodging, Expedition 33 gives you a lot of sound cues to help with knowing when to perform your actions. And if you listen close enough, you'll actually figure out the little sound patterns and breeze through the fights. Beyond dodging and parrying, you have 2 other situational options: jumping and gradient counters. Some attacks require you to jump once that marker pops up, and then you can do a counterattack. As for gradient counters, they're only used in specific enemy attacks when the screen goes gray. Besides gradient counters, there's also gradient attacks, basically little ultimates. Consider them Expedition 33's limit breaks. You fill up the gradient gauge by using skills, and once the bar is full, you can unleash a strong attack, and as such, you also keep your turn after the gradient attack. When you're not fighting, Expedition 33 has a traditional JRPG style of map and traversal, with different islands all over the world and dungeons you could clear, at first on foot and then later in the game through your vehicle. Oftentimes it's some sort of an airship or a car. In Clair Obscur though, it's Eskie, our large friend we can hop on who has abilities that allow him to traverse the terrain of the continent, either through walking, sprinting, swimming, or late in the game, flying. He's a lovable little goofball who's very helpful to our party. Another fun part of Expedition 33's gameplay is the encounters. Since it's not an ancient RPG, there's no random encounters. Your screen doesn't suddenly tweak out and a bunch of enemies suddenly start facing you after you've taken like 3 steps since the last fight. Instead, there's enemies crawling all over the locations you visit, and the fight will only be triggered by walking over to them. Kind of like Final Fantasy XIII, but, you know, not shit. But the cool thing that this game adds is your first strike ability. By using this nifty little button, it guarantees you get the first attack of the battle. Some enemies might chase you while you're running around and you won't have time to use it, but that's also where free aim comes in. Yeah, you can also point and shoot at stuff in this game. Free aim is another little extra ability you can have that can be used both in and outside of combat. Some enemies have glowing weak points. Aiming at them and shooting will deal some crazy damage, making it absolutely necessary if you want to maximize your damage and end the battle as soon as possible. Outside combat, you can shoot at an enemy to temporarily stagger them, and then you can use your first strike without a problem. There's also these little spots around the map called paint cages that contain items. You have to find and shoot a bunch of orbs in the area to unlock the cages, some of which will include pictos, little equipables that grant stat boosts and other special effects. Consider them like accessories. You equip one, and then you have to fight 4 battles with it on in order to master that specific Pictos. Once mastered, the Pictos in question turns into a Lumina. Basically a passive effect that uses the ability of the Pictos without you actually having to keep it equipped. This is not the most straightforward system, and I thought I was alone in not realizing you could do this. But no, it turns out tons of other players played hours of the game before they realized how Luminas work. The game or any websites don't really do a great job of explaining it. Besides Luminas, you can upgrade all of your resources with the help of this funny looking guy called the Curator, adding more Lumina points, increasing the amount of healing items and AP boosters as well as revivers you have. All of these, including these things called chroma tints that heal your entire party, can be used once per every time you save at an expedition flag. Once you save, they replenish. It's like Dark Souls. And of course, there's basic attribute upgrades you use points gained from leveling on, and a dedicated skill tree for each character with loads of variety and playstyle. Each character kind of has a designated gimmick you need to learn in order to use them to their fullest. Let's get into that. The first character you play in Clair Obscur is Gustave, a pretty lovable unk with a mechanical arm. He's also the guy that helped develop the Lumina Converter, a crucial device used by expeditioners to harness chroma through Pictos and Luminas. He fights with a sword and pistol combo, and he has an ability to mark an enemy which is helpful for your party to do big damage. His main gimmick relies on his charges. With each attack, dodge, and parry he does, he gains a charge that fuels his most damaging attack. You can unleash Overcharge at any point during a fight, granted you have the AP for it, but it's gonna be a lot weaker. Once you've gained 10 charges, it's at its most powerful. Gustave just lets out a huge burst of electricity that does some pretty insane damage. This is the loop with him. Gaining charges, overcharge for big damage, occasionally mark an enemy, repeat. Our next character is Luna, the mage of the group. She even floats instead of just sprinting like a normal person, which is pretty damn cool. But anyways, her skills revolve around a mix of different spells, ranging from elemental attacks to heals and revives. She's kind of the party's designated healer, as she's the only one with skills able to heal your entire party, or revive a dead character without the use of a revive tint. See those little elemental charges on the right part of the screen? That's her gimmick. Stains are magical residues in 5 elements: fire, ice, lightning, earth, and light. So if you cast a fire spell, you get a fire stain. If you cast a lightning spell, you get a lightning stain, and so on. With the mixture of stains you produce with each spell, you'll notice some spells consume certain stains in order to deal massive damage. And that's where the fun of mixing and matching comes in with Luna, as you try and figure out the best combos to deal as much damage as possible. Our third character and our youngest is Maelle, a fencer who fights with a rapier. She excels at dealing devastating damage right out of the gate, with a toolkit centered around 3 different stances: defensive, offensive, and virtuose. She starts every battle stanceless, but every skill she uses slots her into one of the 3 stances. Her defensive stance reduces the damage she takes, while the offensive stance does the opposite, increasing damage dealt but also damage received. The last stance is virtuose, which you can only get into through certain skills. It deals 200% more damage. Our fourth character is Ciel, a cheerful fighter who wields a double-bladed scythe in combat. With every attack, she applies a foretell to an enemy, basically like a stack of cards that serve as a setup for a Twilight. A Twilight is a state she enters that consumes foretells for explosive damage. The more foretells stacked, the higher the damage dealt. So think of Twilight as cashing in your cards. Our fourth character, and maybe our most unique, is Monoko, a friendly little Gestrel. Gestrels are a group of humanoids who thrive on combat and view competition as a mediative practice. He doesn't have a traditional skill tree. Instead, he learns skills from other enemies as you defeat them. Each time Monoko uses one of these acquired abilities, his bestial wheel spins. Depending on where it lands, he dons a corresponding mask, which enhances and modifies his capabilities further. Essentially, Monoko is your wildcard, a shape-shifting beast who steals enemy abilities and transforms into them. He hits hard, breaks enemy defenses, and has a voice that oozes badassery.
Did Verso pull you into another adventure?
Our final playable character is Verso, a fighter who earns and maintains combat effectiveness through a perfection rank. Each enemy encounter begins at rank D. Verso earns perfection by landing hits, dodges, and parries. Filling the meter advances him through C, B, A, and finally S rank. If Verso is struck by an enemy, he loses a full perfection rank, making defense or parries crucial to maintain momentum and keep damage at its highest. As the higher your rank is, the better he is. So basically, he's Dante from the Devil May Cry series. And that's all for our cast and the core mechanics of Expedition 33. It's really impressive what Sandfall grew into and what they were able to achieve with a team their size. The combat is simple enough for you to grasp, yet has a ton of depth you could put hours into learning and understanding. And you'll be rewarded with fun and satisfying battles in turn. Now that we've covered the mechanics, it's time to focus on what makes Expedition 33 unforgettable. The world it builds, the story it tells, and the characters that give it heart. Let's dive into Lumiere.
Gustave, Dom Guardian, di-di-di-di-di-di-da, Lutessera-do-di-dom.
We meet Gustave, a 32-year-old engineer who's widely respected in the city of Lumiere. He's devoted much of his life to improving the city, and he's also acted as both a brother and a father figure to Maelle, one of the many orphans of Lumiere, a 16-year-old who lost her parents to the Gamage at the age of 3. What the hell is a Gamage, you ask? After what became known as the Fracture, a cataclysm that split Lumiere from the rest of the world, the people of the city looked up to see a colossal monolith in the sky, and at its peak glowed a single number, 100. No one knew what it meant, not at first, but on the same day the following year, they came to know what it meant, when a towering figure that they call the Paintress emerged, and with a stroke of her brush, she changed the number to 99. And with each change, everyone whose age was equal to or greater than the number would vanish. It was death in all but name, a ritual that steadily lowered the population's age limit, pushing Lumiere ever closer to a day where there would be no one left to Gamage. Throughout those early years, Lumiere sent Expeditioner to the far continent in order to look for survivors and explore. But soon enough, the purpose of those expeditions shifted towards reaching the Paintress to defeat her. The Gamage was discovered in the monolith year 85, when 2 sets of 85-year-old twins both died at once. The people of Lumiere realized this is how it works. This is the yearly cycle, and they had to stop it. Expedition by expedition, they would try to stop the Paintress from changing that number ever again, but to no avail. The age limit decreased year by year, until the people of Lumiere had no chance to even grow old anymore. Over time, they began to hold a farewell ceremony, a final rite for those who were fated to vanish. Those chosen by the countdown would gather in the harbor, dressed in garlands of white and red flowers, gifts from their loved ones. They would sit together, watching the monolith glow, waiting for the number to fall. In order to live out their days to their fullest, expeditioners often headed out a year before their Gamage, a day after the last one in order to give themselves the best chance to face the unknown before their own Gamage. 67 years since the Fracture, the day has come for the number to change from 34 to 33. Gustave prepares to head out with the rest of his expedition crew a year before his own Gamage, and by his side would be his little sister/daughter figure, Maelle, the youngest expeditioner in the crew trying to explore the world and find her own destiny. Gustave takes a rose and prepares himself, trying to find the right words to give it to a girl he loves, Sophie, his ex-girlfriend. Sophie was a beloved figure in Lumiere. Her relationship with Gustave was widely known, and the two worked together for many years and were deeply in love, but the pair eventually broke up over disagreements on whether or not to have children, one wanting to raise their own child and the other believing there to be no future in this world, believing that it's cruel to bring a child into a world that's gonna doom them. Sadly, Sophie was 33 this year, and it was the day of her Gamage. Gustave wanted to find the right final words to tell her before she vanished. He wanted no regrets before he set out to the continent. Maelle tries to help him in the only way a little sister could.
You're asking me? I don't know. Sun's about to set, so be direct. Hey, Soph, been a while. Could we... Have you tried throwing with your other arm instead? If you could hit the Paintress directly, that would actually be useful.
You know, hobbies don't always have to be useful. I'm enjoying the uselessness of today and readying my usefulness for tomorrow.
The two walk across the city as Gustave finds Sophie.
That's for your, if there's room.
There's always room.
You know,
And
I'm
if
sorry
you-
that... I
You
miss
don't need
too.
to... Okay.
You go.
No, you...
Another path, you know, another future.
Still can't finish your sentences, can you?
Yep, that hasn't changed.
In a different world, right? Walk me to the harbor?
Yes.
Gustave and Sophie walk through Lumiere together for the final time, like they did many times when they were younger and in love. Sophie talks to the people around the city square, all dealing with their last day or with the impending loss of their loved ones in different ways.
And yet you didn't have children.
I'm not having this conversation with you again. Not today.
Do you care so little about the future of Lumiere? How can you be so selfish?
I'm not selfish enough to bring others into our doomed world. I know we are not many to think like this now, and it destroyed my relationship with the person I loved the most. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to spend this moment with him, and you should cherish this moment with your daughter.
Sorry. See you at the harbor.
Good luck, Mary. It's nice to know something of us will remain in the world after today. Thank you.
It is I who should thank you. It was a moving dance.
Gustave told me a lot of wonderful things about you.
About you too. I always told him you two should never have broken up.
Look at these orphans. That's where we disagreed. But I have hope that you and Gustave will change things, so no one has to go through this impossible choice again.
Yeah. Let's hope we will.
See you.
In the next life.
And finally, the two reach the harbor.
This too is your legacy.
In a way, it's yours too.
As the paintress changed the number to 33, Sophie, along with everyone else the same age, vanished.
I'm here.
As the paintress changed the number to 33, Sophie, along with everyone else the same age, vanished. Gustave's biggest reason for going on the expedition was that he felt the need to create a future for those who come after, a duty. But now it was also his desire to not lose anyone else he loves. He couldn't bear it again. Gustave and the rest of Expedition 33 ready themselves. Alan, Lucien, Lune, Ciel, Tom, and many others. Emma, Gustave's sister, urges him to stay. Unlike him, she believes everyone can do more good in Lumiere than outside of it, and she urges him to take good care of Maelle. Finally, she gives a speech to the expeditioners before they depart.
When you battle the Paintress, know that Lumiere fights with you. Let the stones of her monolith crumble. Let her body lie at the end of the world, unable to paint another death. Tomorrow comes. Thanks to you, Expedition 33.
On the day the expeditioners arrive on the continent, they're greeted by a mysterious man who appears older, begging the question of how he survived his gamage.
Which expedition are you from? Fall back! He's not following. Putain! What the fuck? Who the fuck was that? Come on! Move! Fucking snap out!
And that was your prologue for Expedition 33. It sets the tone perfectly for the kind of experience you're about to have. From the moment you step into Gustave's shoes, you know the kind of adventure you're about to go on. The kind of expedition. Gustave wakes up near a waterfall, alone and without his fellow expeditioners. He has no idea how many survived the attack by the old man and how many were killed. But there was one person on his mind, Maelle. He'd promised to protect her. He stumbles on the bodies of many of his friends, now dead, killed by the old man without even putting up a fight, wiped out the second they stepped foot on the continent. Maelle was nowhere in sight either, and he couldn't bear it.
You do that, we both die.
Luna finds Gustave just in time. She pushes him, tells him to regain his senses and look around himself. This was always the way it was going to be. They're attacked by an enemy, forcing Gustave to summon his strength. Luna and Gustave begin making their way through the hills in search of any survivors, and especially Maelle, who hadn't left Gustave's mind for a minute. They stumble on an Evron, a group of predominantly hostile creatures inhabiting the continent. This one, however, appears to be old and peaceful. They continue through the spring meadows and encounter Évêque, our first boss fight. Once they defeat him, they head towards the indigo tree where they discover a message.
Took Maelle to the weird corals. Head north, look for a door inside a hut.
Where?
Gustave and Luna head towards the corals, but as nightfall comes, Luna urges Gustave to take a break and set up camp.
I am not letting Maelle die out here. I'm taking her home.
What? No, no, no! We have a mission!
Oh, fuck the mission! Fuck the mission, Lune! What are we gonna do, huh? Tell me. What are we gonna do? We're gonna take down the paintress, just the three of us? My gun and your sparks?
I didn't take you for a coward.
I'm not a coward.
You swore the oath. When one falls, we continue.
Yes, I know.
When one falls. When one falls. Not if. When. We knew not all of us would make it, but we continue. As long as even one of us stands, our fight is not over.
But I'm not afraid to fight, it's just Maelle, she's...
Maelle swore the same oath!
I know that!
She chose her life!
After resting up, they make it to the Flying Waters, a beautiful, strange, and mystical land that's almost soothing in contrast to the creatures that dwell within it. Inside, they encounter a strange, out-of-place looking door. Luna is reluctant, but Gustave dives in search of Maelle. They realize they're now in a strange sort of manor. Most of the doors are closed, except for one.
Maelle?
Gustave? Well, you sure smell real enough.
No, I don't.
With Maelle back, they talk to the curator who's been helping her, and he agrees to join them at camp. They also talk to Noko, a gestural merchant who tells them about a nearby gestural village where they can learn their next move. They start to make their way out of the flying waters, encountering funny little enemies such as mimes, who have a surprisingly huge amount of health, making their fights quite long. Gustave finds a beautiful rose standing alone in a field, as he remembers Sophie. But he's quickly interrupted by the Goblu, our next boss fight, who only attacks Gustave when he picks the flower. This is a pretty fun and straightforward boss fight, relying on lots of usage of lightning. The soundtrack accompanying it is also a banger, and something about that synth and the beat almost reminds me of Man with the Machine Gun from Final Fantasy VIII. Lorian was channeling his inner Nobuo for this one. I know Ben Starr would definitely appreciate it. But anyways, the expedition manages to defeat it. That night, Gustave, Luna, and Maelle make camp, and have themselves a well-earned rest before heading out to the gestural village. As expected, the curator joins them at camp, and he harbors the ability to help them upgrade their resources.
The Gamage is equally violent than death. Death is just as final.
I've been having nightmares.
Yeah, me too. Look, if death approaches, I want you to run. No, promise me. Run. Especially if we meet the man from the beach. We can't face him. You see him, you run.
Only if you do the same.
Oh, I'm running as soon as I see a strand of white hair, trust me. You won't even see me, I'm running so fast.
Oh, please, you're an old man. I can outrun you any day.
Yeah, right.
Before dozing off, Gustave goes through his nightly ritual of writing in his journal, hoping that one day his apprentices might read it. After a good night's sleep, the party heads into the red trees in an attempt to find the village. Luna can barely contain her excitement, being the biggest scholar of the party who studied gesturals her whole life and feels catharsis, finally discovering that they're real and not just creatures of legend. They wander around for a while, as their only lead for the village, given by Noko, who isn't great with directions, is red trees. When at last they end up finding it, the gestrals start flipping out at the thought that they might be Nevrons. And with that, they dispatch their so-called invincible creation, the sack of potatoes. The party defeats him fairly quickly, and that's when they stumble on a little gestral named Keratom. Keratom helps them find their way to the village. Keratom says that they're good fighters, and that the village chef? What? Golgra will want to see them. At long last, they arrive at the gestral village, where there they converse with some of the residents. In typical gestral fashion, they get threatened and almost rage-baited into a fight several times. They beat a merchant at the bazaar, encountered this guy, finally, they go inside the chief's house to meet her. They inquire about crossing the sea to get to the paintress. She tells them about Eskie, a creature of legend who doesn't live far away. He would be able to help them, but they would need to prove that they're great warriors in order to obtain a password, as Eskie could accidentally eat them. Golgra shows that she's not impressed with the fact that they beat the ultimate sack of potatoes. She urges them to fight in their little gestral tournament to win this sacred password, and our party reluctantly agrees. They make their way over to the arena and engage in bouts against the likes of Bertrand Big Hands, Dominique Giant Feet, and Matthew the Colossus, and finally, in the tournament final, they face off against a human being. We quickly realize this is Ciel, one of the expedition members. After the bout, Gustave, Maelle, Luna, and now Ciel have themselves a little reunion.
Am I one of those old people?
One day, I hope. Hey, how'd you end up here?
Oh, after the beach, I ended up in an odd yellow forest, not too far from here. Had to dodge a few Nevrons, but luckily I met a gestral who guided me here.
Golgra praises their fighting prowess and is impressed with the fact that they won the tournament. Finally, she reveals the password we need so badly. The password is... Get out of my way.
Get out of my way!
The password is get out of my way.
That's... yeah.
As loud as we can. Got it.
And that's about it for the Gestural Village. We have the option to provoke Golgra to a duel, but The party left the village and went down the path to Esquia's nest, but nightfall soon came and they made camp. Gustave and the girls caught their breath a little.
You okay? You've been quiet since we left the village.
Yeah, sorry. Just bad memories.
Wanna talk about it?
No.
No.
Everyone is excited, but Maelle seems particularly distraught.
Do you feel something? White hair. Who are you?
Alicia, I told you to stay home. This is your only warning.
I can't wait to see...
Maelle?
Hey.
Hey.
Gustave tries to comfort her and calm her down, while Luna is heavily interested in the kind of vision Maelle might have seen, seeing it as a chance to learn more about the man that attacked them, but it obviously wasn't the time to press her. When the morning came, the 4 expeditioners finally made it to Esquia's nest. They meet a particularly nice Gestural who asks for the password, and this scene is one of my favorites in the entire game.
Golgra said to shout the password as loud as we can. Well, Gustave, you're the loudest.
Really?
Get out of my way!
Jeez. No,
it's just the... it's the password.
Gustave
Gustave is such a regular nice dude at the end of the day that he feels horrible for shouting at this poor Gestural. Even though the Gestural is not even gonna remember this in a few minutes. Gotta love our boy.
I'm sorry.
They enter the beautiful nest where our favorite mythical creature is sat, and finally he emerges.
Bonjour, mes amis.
Hey, bonjour mon ami. Ciel?
What? I don't know. He seems nice.
Oh, it's you. Hello again, my terrible swimmer friend.
We really need to cross the sea. Would you please help us?
There's a lot of you to carry. I'm strong, but I'm not that strong. I will need Flory.
Who's Flory?
One of my rocks.
Esquia agrees to help out the party, but on the condition that they recover Flory for him, one of his beloved rocks. But to do that, they'd have to go through his arch-nemesis, his worst enemy.
The one known as... François.
Okay.
Strangely enough, Esquia seems to know Ciel. She's unable to explain the feeling of familiarity when she spoke with him, and how he knew she was a terrible swimmer. Brushing it off, she follows the party into Francois' lair. We've got a pretty fun Francois boss fight here where he unleashes the strongest ice attack ever. Francois finally gives up Flory and lets the party take him, but Esquia finds out that it's not actually him, and the real Flory is in Stonewave Cliffs up north. Expedition 33 agrees to help him, as Esquia is not only a creature of legend, but would be a major help. They travel up north with him, taking their time, enjoying the continent, heading to the beaches to meet more Gesturals. They even play a few beach games with the Gesturals, hopping between platforms, and beating them in beach raft volley in order to win swimsuits. Ah crap, I forgot to mention that you can also customize the way the characters look to a degree. Yeah, there's a decent assortment of outfits and hairstyles you can unlock for all of the characters throughout your time in the continent. Some of them in quests, some purchased from wandering merchants, and some, namely the swimsuits, by beating the Gesturals in the beach minigames. Yeah, that's all. Back to the story now. As the party inches closer to the cliffs, Maelle is severely tired and asks them to camp for the night. But even then, she sadly remains restless as the nightmares plague her mind once again. She snaps out of it, channeling her inner Gustave as he joins her. Nobody's able to calm Maelle down like her big brother, as Gustave helps her relax.
Like, I'm always missing something that everyone else just gets.
But it helps, you know, to focus on the things I do understand, on the people I care about and who care about me. And, you know, now I feel a little less lost, because at least we're lost together. What? What? Stop it. Too cheesy? No. Well, if it makes you feel better, I was even more lost when I was 16.
I heard that was because you were only thinking about girls.
Yep, but guess what? The girls weren't thinking about me at all.
I believe that.
You can talk to me, you know. We're family. Well, that's what the paperwork says, at least.
The campfire lights up as the expeditioners gather, of course with their new friend Esquier.
You finally found someone who loves rocks more than you.
So it seems.
I think you and Esquier are soulmates.
Esquier talks about his best friend whose name he spoke before, coincidentally a human. As Maelle goes to sleep that night, the masked man and the girl appear yet again. The sun rises anew and the morning breeze comes as the party finally makes it to Stonewave, unaware of the old man the night before. They encounter a number of enemies on the way, find a few journals of past expeditioners who'd made it this far, and dive deeper in. There, they encounter the Lamp Master. The Lamp Master is a strange monster, an abomination made only of arms and hands holding lamps and a sword. The battle is long and tiring as the expeditioners try to keep it at bay. After a grueling fight, they finally manage to pass the lamp trial. After all of this, finally, Flory is recovered. Gustave and Maelle feel a rush of sentimentality as they get closer to their goal. The paintress doesn't seem so far away now, as they decide to throw one more rock to honor the moment.
What about that one?
Does it really matter?
Well, you know, like I always say, it's not about the rock. It's more about...
Gustave.
Run.
The old man appears, shooting a beam through Gustave. Maelle is unable to reach and help him. Gustave, remembering his promise to protect Maelle, arms himself immediately. And even though he's severely wounded, he attacks the old man relentlessly either way. All Maelle can do is watch as the man who is both her big brother and her father attempts to summon every last bit of strength he has left in his dying body. Every bit of energy as he unleashes one final overcharge. He managed to heavily damage the old man, but of course it was to no avail. The old man rises as if nothing had even grazed him, having recovered as Gustave charges into his death. He'd already accepted it long before he even summoned his blade.
For those who come after. Right?
No. You promised!
You won't yet understand. But this is a kindness, not a cruelty.
A man with a strand of grey hair rushes in defense of Maelle. He appears to know the old man closely.
You've lived more than a lifetime. It's time to let her go.
A lifetime. A lifetime with my family torn apart. No. I want my family back.
It's okay. I'll handle things here. Get back to your friends.
Thanks to the stranger, Maelle, Luna, Ciel, and Esquier manage to pass Stone Wave and make camp. Esquier comforts Maelle, who breaks down over the death of one of the only real family members she knew in life. Ciel and Luna are by the fire, grieving in different ways. Luna is steadfast in her drive to make sure the expedition is as successful as possible. The stranger returns later that night.
I'm sorry I couldn't save your friend. I'm wearing an expedition uniform because I, too, am an expeditioner.
What? What do you mean you're an...
I've never seen you before.
First expedition. Expedition 0.
Expedition 0? But how are you alive and not...
Old? I don't know exactly, but some of us stopped aging, and were not affected by the gamage.
Some of you? Like the man on the cliff?
Anwar, our commander.
Why? Why did he massacre our team?
How could he turn on his own people?
He believes his immortality is a gift from the Paintress. Killing her would kill him too, and he enjoys living forever.
So, if I want to kill Renoir, I have to kill the Paintress first. What's your name?
Verso.
And that concludes the first act of Expedition 33. What a ride, huh? And with that, Verso joins the expedition. We learned the name of the old man, his identity, and his origins. Renoir was out to get them. Verso, of course, was the name Esquier mentioned when he spoke about his best friend. The two reunited, and we see that there was truth to Esquier's words. The two seemed overjoyed to be reunited.
I could say the same for you, you giant marshmallow. Bet you lost your stones again.
You know me. But now you're here. We can go find them.
Yeah, buddy. We'll find them.
Maelle finds herself unable to sleep that night. Verso tries to offer his condolences, but of course by that point it's no use. Maelle barely gets a lick of sleep that night as they head out the next morning. Gustave fell in battle, but of course, no matter what, we continue. Verso takes on Gustave's role here, as Gustave's levels and points all carry over. The party presses on. Maelle, though heartbroken, is now driven by a deep desire for vengeance. If the Paintress was just a stepping stone to take down Renoir, so be it. Maelle asks if they could bury Gustave, but Luna, ever the expeditioner to stick to the plan, says they can't stop in accordance with protocol. Verso and Ciel assure her that they'll find time on the way, as Verso tells Maelle of a beautiful spot he knows Gustave would have liked. Of course, Gustave's body was long gone. All that was left was his Lumina converter, his journal, and his prosthetic arm. But that was enough for Maelle. She would carry on his legacy. She would carry the Lumina converter into battle and continue the journal, so that one day his apprentices would read through it. And of course, there was his arm. The party pushes on through an old battlefield filled with Nevrons, but are then attacked by the Dueliste, standing atop a literal mountain of corpses, having ended countless other expeditions before 33. Not this expedition, though. The battlefield may bend to Dueliste's rule, the ground littered with the corpses he's slain, but against him, they don't cower or break. They rally, striking back with fury and unity, turning his battlefield of horrors into the stage for his reckoning. He summons another sword as the expeditioners think they've won, and the battle continues. This is one of the best and one of my favorite boss fights in the entire game. A delight in every way. The expedition gathers all the strength they have, and finally, he falls. With that done, they make their way through the battlefield, having felled a monster designed to end entire expeditions. Verso leads them to the spot he was talking about. There it was, and indeed, Gustave would have loved it.
Couldn't wait for me, could you? I wish we could.
Rest easy, Gustave.
I'll finish what you started. The Paintress, Renoir, they will pay.
You were always there for me.
I'll save them.
Each of them grieves in their own way as they say goodbye to Gustave. And with that, they retire to the campfire at night. Verso tells his new friends of their next move.
And some food. And then from there, we head north to Monoko Station.
Why there?
To recruit my oldest friend. We'll need the extra firepower, because our next goal will be to take down the Paintress Heart.
That night, Verso tries to get closer to the expeditioners, trying to form some sort of a friendship with them. Maelle approaches him, and she makes it official as she gives Verso Gustave's old armband, marking him as a member of Expedition 33, or in her words, the Disaster Expedition. Esquier, however, wouldn't let it slide without having one made for him, as Verso indulges his dear friend. And with that, sleep finally came, and when the sun rose, our party once again headed out north to reach Monoko, Verso's old friend. The mountains were cold and unforgiving, and apparently so was Monoko.
Slow as ever. More music.
Ladies, could I interest you in a duel?
Definitely a gestural.
And so the battle begins with one of the hardest fucking soundtracks I've ever heard in my life. After the fight, Noko shows himself, and it turns out he's Monoko's son. He tells them a Nevron, a Stalact, is attacking, and with that, the expedition takes him down together. And Monoko shows his ability to transform into a Nevron by, taking the feet of Nevrons he defeats? Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, with Monoko and Noko... Yeah, they're definitely father and son. With them joining the expedition, everybody starts making their way towards Old Lumiere, the next destination.
What do we owe the pleasure of your company?
We're heading for Old Lumiere.
Okay, bye.
Hey, come on. Hey, shot. Hey.
This is your only shot. Out of the question. I will never join you again.
There will be a lot of fighting, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There will be a lot of fighting.
Exactly.
Count me in then.
Good.
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 Yes, good.
Old Lumiere is decrepit by this point since the fracture, a husk of its once radiant self. The streets are crooked and warped, the architecture, once graceful, leans with age and destruction, and Nevrons are crawling everywhere. Monoko then decides to be a fucking idiot. Verso asks for his help in clearing a path, and he just straight up blows a hole through the building and separates everyone. He's pretty sad about this.
Sorry, I fucked up. I just wanted to show off.
Him, Luna, and Ciel begin wandering around in search of Verso and Maelle, who fell together. Luna finds one of the old expedition's journals, 58 to be exact, and discovers something about Verso. Maelle herself loses sight of Verso as they travel through the streets together. She approaches a particularly beautiful looking mansion, as it feels very familiar to her. Maelle approaches and the door opens.
I knew you'd open the door for her.
Really, Verso? This was your plan?
Were you planning on sharing that this man, the man who murdered our team, is your father?
Family is not my favorite topic.
Renoir is revealed as Verso's father, a truth that begs 1,000 questions, but there's no chance for answers right now. The moment hangs only long enough to sting before it shatters, as Renoir launches his assault and the battle erupts around them. Renoir comes at them without pause, every strike heavy and precise. The party pushes back hard, matching his fury with steel and spell. Verso takes the brunt of it, clashing with his father in a fight full of raw anger and old wounds. Every blow between them carries more than force, its years of resentment finally breaking loose. Renoir unleashes a violent blast that rips through the party. The group gathers themselves, catching their breath and checking wounds, but the brief relief shatters when they turn and see Monoko kneeling on the ground. In his arms lies Noko's limp, gestural body. He died in the blast.
Why can't you accept who you are?
The woman from before approaches Maelle, removing her mask slowly. She walks back into the burning mansion without a word. That night, the party regroups once again, having made camp. Monoko clutches Noko's body. He explains that it's possible to resurrect Gestrals, but most of their memories will disappear, and they will not recognize anybody from their past life. Essentially, they would be someone new. Luna explains that there is a way they could pierce the Paintress's heart thanks to what she read in Expedition 58's journals.
Do you need something from the Axons? Do you need their hearts?
The Curator seemingly confirms this. The Expeditioners would need to defeat the Axons, massive creatures around the continent, overwhelmingly stronger than Nevrons. There are 4 of them, but one is already dead and one is unreachable, far in the northwest. That left 2. Everyone spreads out into the camp for their hard-earned night's rest. In the morning, though Verso remains hesitant to face the Axons, the expedition presses forward. With Esquia's help, they cut through the coral reefs, the aquatic maze of vivid colors and jagged stone, and emerge on the northern island. There, the sea parts to reveal a lonely island crowned by a looming fortress of stone and masks, the domain of Visages, the first of the 2 Axons the party needs to defeat. The Mask Keeper greets the party at the entrance. They ascend the worn stone steps, passing under arches carved with countless faces, each mask frozen in an expression of joy, grief, or rage. And finally, they're welcomed by he who guards truth with lies, Visages. He unleashes a different mask each time through his mirror, each one possessing a different ability and launching a different kind of attack towards the party. After destroying each one successfully, they're plunged into a sudden darkness. The Mask Keeper once again shows himself, and the real battle begins. Once again, every mask attacks the expedition in a different way, crippling them, but they fight. They overcome, and they continue. The Mask Keeper's illusions cut through and overpower them. The party attempts to fight back as hard as they can, but one by one, Verso, Luna, Maelle, Monoko, they fall. Except for Ciel. She powered through, taking off the mask and putting the Keeper down. Verso couldn't believe it. They actually did it. They managed to take down an Axon. That night, everybody regrouped after making camp like they always do, and they all took a rest. Verso summoned his piano. It had been years since he tickled the ivories.
What song was that? I feel like I know it.
Yes, an old song I used to play to my sister.
Can you play another?
Sure. We have all night. Okay, ready?
Are you ready?
I am ready. I will need a bit of space. All right. Esquier, you ready?
For once, the expeditioners slept well. It was good, because come morning, it was straight to the next Axon and the next Chroma Heart in their path. The beautiful and ruined old Colosseum rising from the sea. The domain of she who plays with wonder. Luna feels it most. Her eyes follow Siren's every motion. Her body sways as if involuntarily with her, but she snapped out of it. Verso warns that she'll make them lose their minds. The party makes their way through the area slowly, taking in every breathtaking sight. Serenaded by Siren the whole way, they encounter a number of her minions on the way, including Glissando and all of the ballet dancers enamored by her. Finally, they all reach her. True to Verso's words, she attempts to manipulate them once more with visions of loved ones they've lost. Maelle sees Gustave, Luna sees her parents, Ciel sees her late husband, and Monoko sees Noko. Verso, however, strangely stands visionless. They snap out of it, and the battle begins. Siren attacks using strands from her dress, attempts at charming members of the party, her ballet dancers striding in with fury, and soon the grand ballet almost breaks the party. But their spirit overcomes the songstress, as Luna repels her final attack. And with that, the second Axon is defeated, and the party has gathered both of the Chroma Hearts they need to penetrate the Paintress's barrier. That night, at camp, the Curator finally produces the object the expedition had shed blood and tears for. a sword unlike any other they've ever seen, able to pierce the Paintress's heart, the Barrier Breaker. The expedition gathered close around the campfire, its glow flickering against their weary faces. This was it. The end of their long march was approaching. The next morning, they'd face the Paintress. Unbeknownst to the rest of the crew, however, Ciel discovered a dark secret about Verso.
Well, Esque and I had a chat.
I'm sorry, Verso. She promised me sweet rocks.
Is that wine?
I stored my personal stash inside it. All excellent vintages. I don't normally share, but I suppose tonight deserves an exception.
And there they were, all celebrating and dancing on what might be the final moon they witness, drinking wine, or, well, apple juice in Maelle's case, and enjoying the night. Verso, however, is distant, looking off into the river.
My beautiful sister doesn't need this ugly mask.
You embrace her, yet you're condemning her to die. You think you're ready to pay the price. But are you willing to let them pay the price for you?
That morning, the party had a little chat as they headed out.
Wow. I drank too much last night.
I can't remember a thing.
Clean me out, mes amis.
You bunch of drunks.
And with that, their path led them to the looming monolith. The air grew still as they approached, the world itself seeming to hold its breath. Maelle stepped forward and raised the barrier breaker, driving it in, and the entrance was open. The Paintress sat, curled up in a seemingly endless fit of sorrow. The party almost wanted to feel bad, yet pity had no place here. The faces of their fallen companions burned in their minds, each loss a reminder of why they had come this far. This was it. The final battle. Expedition 33 attacks. But the more they attack and exhaust themselves, the Paintress doesn't even react. She doesn't move, she doesn't fight back, she's unaffected. The Paintress seems to head into some kind of portal. The expedition follows her as they enter the monolith itself. Inside, they're surrounded by old memories and visions. Past expeditions had made it this far as well, making it apparent humanity was close to victory before. The seasons and landscapes seem to constantly shift as they traverse the monolith, soon turning into a snowy mountain. They reach a train, boarding it. They arrive in Lumiere. Of course, not the real one, a distorted vision of old Lumiere, an illusion meant to tempt the party with what was lost, forcing them to face the weight of what they're fighting for. The real old Lumiere, after all, is the ruined husk they explored much earlier. This weighs heavily on Verso as they head deeper inside. Renoir emerges, greeting them.
We're taking her down.
She's not the only one who grieves. The pain of losing you, she made me inherit it. Tell me, how are you different from her in doing this?
I'm tired.
So trust me. We are your family.
Family is complicated.
Having been left with no choice, both parties face each other for a final time. Another battle against Renoir, one that Maelle wanted so badly, one that would give her the chance that she craved, the revenge that had eluded her. Renoir speaks in an almost cryptic manner towards the curator.
This is all you have left of your son. Destroying it won't bring your wife back.
But the curator helps Maelle destroy him all the same.
I love them, too.
expedition heads up to the peak of the monolith, and that's where the paintress sees Verso.
You've come back? Oh, is he playing tricks again?
But she reacts to Maelle as well, calling her by the name of her daughter, Alicia.
She's not Alicia. You are not my Verso.
No. Verso's dead.
Still grief-stricken, she grows angry before finally unleashing her power. This is the moment the entire expedition had been waiting for. The march, the suffering, the endless cycle of death and return had been for this single chance. For the first time, it felt as though the hopes of both the dead and the living stood together behind them, urging them forward. The paintress was in front of them, and they needed to make sure she could never paint again. She takes on many different forms in the battle. The expedition is pushed to their absolute limit, but they fight, and they overcome. The paintress remains defiant on her knees, and the expedition remains resolved to end it. At that point, it was almost a mercy kill.
Why?
Rest now. Things will be better soon.
It was over. The number disappeared. Expedition 33 plants their flag at the peak of the monolith, where no one had ever ventured before, where they killed the paintress once and for all. On the way home, Maelle is almost in disbelief. While all the others seem happy, she doesn't even know what's real anymore. This was it? Just like that? They just go home and live for decades more without the fear of gamaging? Lumiere is in high spirits. They'd probably been celebrating, crying, and cheering since the moment they saw that number at the monolith disappear. They knew 33 had succeeded. It was a celebration, a hailing of heroes. Of course, one was missing, as Maelle had to break the sad news to Gustave's sister and apprentices. This is what she continued his journal for them. Verso, however, sits alone. He pulls out a letter from Alicia, his sister.
Brother, I tire of the conflicts and deceptions that plague our family and theirs. I'm at peace with what's to come. When the time comes, I hope you will be too. Perhaps you differ from your father and your sister, as I differ from mine. Your mother paints life, whilst your father, death. What will you paint?
Unfortunately, everyone gamages anyway. Including Maelle. The Descendre family was once complete. Maybe not fully happy, but complete. Renoir and Aline, two extraordinary painters with the power to create entire universes within their paintings, had 3 children they wanted to pass their gift to. Their first child was Clair, a girl as talented, maybe even more so than they were. And their second born, Verso, a boy. Verso and Clair often played together in the paintings their parents created. Verso, however, hated painting himself. His true passion lied with music. He loved to play the piano more than anything in the world. He loved to perform in the opera house. He wanted to compose and express himself through his passion, but sadly his parents, especially Renoir, pushed him towards painting. In their family, painting was treated as a legacy, almost a duty. Renoir saw Verso as the one meant to inherit that tradition, not stray from it. This pressure created a rift. Verso felt unseen, his passion dismissed, his voice silenced under expectation. As he grew up, this was the root of his depression, feeding into the bitterness and sadness he carried. Verso, in the end, only ever created one painting. The Gestrels, Monoko, Noko, and Eskie, all born from his brush. Monoko and Noko themselves Verso named after the family's 2 dogs. Renoir and Aline's 3rd child is born, a girl named Alicia. The Desandra family was complete. Renoir and Aline had a lot of expectations for Alicia, seeing her as someone with immense potential. She who grasps the sky as her axon symbolizes. But of course, while Verso was depressed for the most part, he still loved her as the older brother and shielded her from her family's pressure, encouraging her dreams instead of pushing her into Renoir's mold. The Desandra family and the painters were locked in conflict with the enigmatic writers, a shadowy force about which little is truly known. Aline was a head of council for this group of magical painters, and of course, the writers were their own faction, an opposing one. It all came to a tragic end when the writers struck directly, or so Clair believes. They set a fire within the Desandra family manor, an inferno that consumed everything in its path. The flames tore through the halls, and Alicia was caught in it, the blaze leaving her body scarred and disfigured. In those final moments, Verso acted without hesitation. Ignoring the smoke and the searing heat, he carried his sister from the collapsing home, pushing her towards safety even as the fire closed in on him. It was his last desperate act of brotherly love, saving Alicia's life at the cost of his own. And with that, Verso, the real Verso, perished. Alicia lived through the fire, though forever marked by the scars it left. Aline, on the other hand, was devastated beyond recovery. Grief hollowed her out, leaving her unable to face the world as it was. To endure the loss, she turned to the one thing Verso had left behind, his painting. Believing that every work holds a fragment of its creator's soul, Aline sought that remnant inside his art. There, she shaped a world of her own making, conjuring a version of Verso as he once was. Within that painted dream, she could escape the pain of reality and live alongside him again, whole and unbroken, even if only an illusion. Renoir, desperate to reclaim his wife from the illusion, sought to drag Aline back into the real world. He entered the painting himself, determined to tear down the false family she had conjured and erase the dream that kept her bound there. But Aline resisted. She clung to the world she had built, to the painted Verso and the facsimile of the family she had lost. Their struggle turned violent, 2 wills colliding within the canvas itself. The clash was so fierce it ripped the painting apart, causing what became known as the fracture, the event that shook the painted world to its core and nearly destroyed it outright. In the end, neither prevailed. The fracture sealed both of them inside. Renoir and Aline, once flesh and blood, became trapped within the painting they had torn apart, unable to return to the real world, locked away as part of the canvas itself. Inside the fractured painting, Renoir turned his anger into control. He began erasing the lives Aline had filled the world with. This is what became known as the Gamage. Piece by piece, he consumed their chroma, the very paint that sustained their existence, drawing it back to himself. Aline, bound within the same canvas, took on a new role. She became known as the Paintress, the figure who appeared to mark each year's cycle. But the numbers she left behind were not the tally of lives she claimed. They were warnings of how many she could still protect. She was never the one doing the erasing. Every year, as Renoir's Gamage spread, Aline's strength waned. Her power to shield the people from him grew smaller and smaller. Where once she could preserve many, now she could only guard a few. This is why when Expedition 33 defeated her, everyone in Lumiere gamaged regardless of age. They weren't under her protection anymore. The Verso, Renoir, and Alicia encountered in the game are not the real family members, but painted recreations born from Aline's grief and memory. Each of them exists as she imagined them, shaped by her longing and her pain rather than by who they truly were. The Renoir we face inside the painting is not the man himself, but the version Aline painted, a reflection of how she perceived him. Verso even acknowledges this, remarking that this Renoir feels like a caricature, exaggerated into nothing but cruelty, arrogance, and control. Yet, as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that Aline's distortion wasn't far off the truth. The traits she emphasized were not invented. They were the essence of the man Renoir had become. The real Renoir, trapped within the painting after the fracture, masks himself behind the role of the curator. Through this facade, he guides expedition after expedition, pushing them toward one goal: to topple the paintress. For him, it isn't about ending the gamage, it's about forcing Aline out, breaking her hold on the world they share. At times, Clair herself pierces the painting, stepping into its fractured world. She brings with her the Nevrons, creations of her own design, meant to challenge Aline's constructs and tip the balance. In her visits, she encountered the painted Verso, the recreation of her brother, and confides in him the truth of the world, that he is a creation, that the cycle is a trap, and that siding with her could help end the paintress's reign. In the real world, Alicia awakens from a nightmare, the same one she'd seen so many times now. Verso pulling her out of the fire, sacrificing his own life for her to live. Clair grows deeply anxious about her parents' absence. What feels like decades within the painting is only days or weeks outside, yet she knows something is wrong. In desperation, she convinces the real Alicia to enter the painting and help Renoir pull Aline back out. But the transition doesn't go as intended. When Alicia crosses into the painted world, she loses control of herself. Aline seizes the opportunity and reshapes her, birthing her anew as Maelle.
She's a girl. She's a girl. She's beautiful. What a lovely voice.
Oh, my darling girl. We have precious little time together.
Maelle lives her life fully inside the painting, unaware that she is in truth Alicia, her original self buried beneath the persona Aline had forced upon her. To her, this world is all she's ever known, even as the hidden war between Aline and Renoir grinds on in the background. Meanwhile, Aline keeps the painted Verso close to her, a son reborn to ease her grief. Yet, as the years pass, Verso changes. He begins to see through the illusions of the painted world, recognizing the lies at its foundation. The more he learns, the more he pulls away from Aline. No longer her comfort, but her opposition. Eventually, he comes to accept what Clair had told him, that he is not the real Verso, only a creation, born of Aline's brush. When Maelle dies within the painted world, it isn't an ending, it's a breaking point. Her death shatters the barrier that had separated her from the real Alicia all along. Alicia emerges, but she is not the same girl who once entered the painting. She carries both lives within her. The memories of Alicia, the daughter who lost her brother to the fire, and the experiences of Maelle, the warrior who fought, loved, and suffered inside the cycle.
Alicia.
Actually, I prefer Maelle.
The two selves were never truly separate. They were always one, divided only by Aline's control. Now, with the barrier gone, Alicia and Maelle fuse into a single whole, shaped by two lives, two sets of pain and strength, bound together in one body and soul. This rebirth makes her unlike anyone else, a bridge between the real world and the painted one, carrying the weight of both realities within her. Alicia, or, well, by this point, she prefers Maelle, meets with painted Verso. With the battle against the painted, Renoir won thanks to the real one under the guise of the curator, and with the painters defeated, Aline is forced out of the painted world she'd clung to for decades. That left the real Renoir in total control of the chroma. Every fragment of painted life now bends to his will. He wishes to destroy the canvas, but Maelle refuses to let him.
Papa, please. This is Verso's only canvas. You can't destroy the last piece of him that we have. This is my home now. You can't just decide—
Your home? After all that with your mother, you want to stay?
You know how little remains of my life outside.
Alicia, you'll die. You've already been here longer than you should.
But—
No.
No, Mum. I'm not going to lose myself if I stay.
I know full well you will, and I am not doing this again!
No!
That night, they make camp once more. Monoko and Esquier are unaffected by the last gamage, same as always, because they were Verso's painted creations. And Maelle, of course now Alicia as well, uses her power as a painter, calling upon the remnants of Ciel and Lune, and with that, she manages to bring them back.
How did we got marched?
Of course, Lune and Ciel are angry at Verso in different ways. Lune is resentful and expresses how she was right not to trust him. Ciel is more understanding, but nevertheless indifferent to his feelings, making it clear she only wishes to stick by him for his help, and nothing more, which he thanks her for.
But I need chroma, and Papa controls all the chroma in the canvas.
The expeditioners. The ones killed by Nevrons. Gustave noticed their chroma remains in their bodies.
Time for the greatest expedition in history.
And thus, Verso, Maelle, Lune, Ciel, Monoko, and Esquier all head out to the greatest expedition of all.
Clair Obscur, bleu de rature courera et fait. Clair Obscur, voir des hauts peintures trouvera sans elle. Clair Obscur, bleu de rature.
Gathering all the chroma from the past fallen expeditioners, Renoir controlled all of the world's chroma, but not those who fell to Nevrons. They needed every bit if they wanted to fight him and expel him from the canvas. Along the way, they enter the chamber where she stayed all these years. Painted Clea, spending her days painting Nevrons. Alicia and Verso's older sister, reduced to nothing in body, but still harboring great power in chroma as she battles the expedition. She summons all kinds of Nevrons to fight with, but by this point, they manage to defeat her with relative ease. The strong-willed eldest daughter who came into the canvas in an attempt to bring her parents out ended up lost and trapped inside of it, as she finally lets her Nevrons wake her up.
I'm sorry.
And finally, the expedition's final objective, as they head back into Lumiere with the souls of everyone who's fought with them in the past.
Tomorrow comes.
All out war between them and Renoir's forces. The streets of Lumiere are a war zone. The expeditioners head deeper and deeper in to confront Renoir. But of course, passing through the opera house where Verso once loved it so much, it's quiet in there, in a melancholic way. Past the opera house, Renoir stood waiting.
Life keeps forcing cruel choices. We do what we must. As your father, I must look out for you. Especially when you can't look out for yourself.
You treat me as if I'm still 5!
I treat you as if the shadow from the worst day of our lives is going to suffocate you and take you from us too! I said, enough.
Unfortunately, at this point, there is no reconciliation. Maelle draws her blade, and so do her friends behind her. The final battle is now. The battle, like any, is long and bloody. Renoir takes on his curator form and summons the towering Axons to aid him against his own daughter, as well as a painted version of his son and all the other expeditioners. And they defeat him.
I cannot spend another day with living corpses. I want it to be fixed. I need it to be fixed. I cannot lose you too.
Don't you see? That's how I feel about them. I can't lose them either.
Keep the light on for you. I hope you find peace. hold on to each other.
Renoir tries his hardest to explain his actions, to explain everything. This is the struggle they face now. Maelle not wanting to erase this canvas due to her memories and her connections with the people, and Renoir wanting his family back. But for Painted Verso, he can't take it much longer.
I'm sorry.
Verso wants it all to end. He wants this husk, this fragment, this echo of his mother's grief to stop painting.
You're tired of painting, aren't you? I'm tired too.
But Maelle can't simply let that be.
Everything I want is here. Here I have a chance to live, Verso, to live. Out there I merely exist.
Life keeps forcing cruel choices.
Stop quoting Papa! Verso!
I'm sorry.
The two face off. True siblings or not, it didn't matter. If we were to choose Maelle's side, she urges him to stop.
Verso, stop! You can't just decide this for everyone!
We're all hypocrites, doing the same thing to each other.
I'm so tired, Verso. Please, can we just go home and talk about this?
The two engage in a sad, bloody fight over the fate of the canvas, but in the end, Maelle emerges victorious. Verso falls into her arms.
You can do this, please. Unpaint me. Unpaint me.
Verso.
Please. I don't want this life.
Stop saying that.
I don't want this life. I don't want this life.
I just wanted to live this lifetime together. This lifetime that was stolen from us. Please. Bro. Please.
I don't want this life.
Verso seemingly passes in her arms, but of course this is not the case. He can't die. Over at Lumiere in the Opera House, just as Verso once promised Maelle, he'd play for everyone in the hall. Gustave's apprentices are there, Luna, Ciel, and her husband Pierre. Maelle sits with them as they wait. Of course, the man who comes to sit beside her, Gustave. Him and Sophie, reunited, together again, as Verso comes up on the stage. Verso, as if reluctantly, hesitating, finally begins to play the piano. Neither him or Maelle look right. Something is very off about them, and it's quite apparent what that is. None of this is what Verso wanted, almost as if Maelle is forcing him into this world, into this canvas where everything is bright and happy, to exist where he doesn't belong. Again, the look in Maelle's eyes is almost sinister, as if she wants to keep up this facade of happiness, just to keep this utopic fake world running. It's depressing. All the other characters possibly could live happily, but for Maelle and Verso, that might never happen. In Verso's ending, he defeats Maelle in the battle between them.
Don't do this. Don't leave me again.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, huh? You've got this incredible power to paint. You'll never have to suffer a life you don't want. You're okay.
With that, Maelle is driven out of the canvas, back to the real world as Alicia. Verso hugs his dearest friends, Monoko and Eskie, one final time. They understand, of course. They're the real Verso's creations after all. Ciel and Luna both stare daggers into his soul, but as always, they react to him differently. Ciel is more understanding, reaching out to him in her final moments, and Luna is indifferent, choosing to spend her final moments in peace, looking into his eyes, knowing she was right in the end. And with that, Verso, no longer being painted, disappears. In the real world, the Desandra family is together again. Alicia is still disfigured and unhappy, but they're together, all laying flowers on Verso's grave and paying respects. Alicia holds a miniature Eskie in her hands, as Renoir and Aline, once divided, can finally rebuild. Alicia, Maelle, says her final goodbyes to her friends from the canvas that no longer exists. Her other self, Gustave, Verso, Luna, Ciel, Monoko, and Eskie. What a game! And that was Clair Obscur Expedition 33, a cycle of loss and grief constantly being repeated with no end in sight, and the endings continue that. To say there is no good ending between the two is an understatement. It's nigh on impossible to even try to decide which of the two is sadder. Hang on to a fake painted world, or let go of all of it so that the characters we spend the entire game with cease to exist completely. Maelle's ending means every character gets to live on inside the canvas. Gustave and Sophie are together. Ciel and her husband, everybody is happy except for Maelle and Verso, who live on as husks, Maelle almost forcing Verso to live on and perform for them. Meanwhile, Verso's ending means he dies and everybody else ceases to exist. The canvas is destroyed, and Maelle is once again Alicia, disfigured, unable to speak, uncertain of her future. No matter the ending, she will never be able to live happily, so pick your poison. Also, I just wanted to quickly point out that when you choose Maelle and fight Verso, he's weak to fire damage, which is just such a sad detail that they had to throw in, man. The writers are sort of a mystery. Literally all we know about them is that they're an enemy faction, and it's implied that they started the fire that killed Verso and set all these events in motion. It's possible that through writing they share the same magical ability to create worlds like the painters do, but what we do know is that they're a meta-narrative force. They could literally be perceived as the developers themselves. They're implied to be linked to certain story beats, impacting and influencing certain lore and dialogue. So while the writer's exact nature is ambiguous, they're part of the meta-narrative that so many games seem to enjoy doing in the past couple of years. And the developers have stated they aim for Clair Obscur to be a series, so who knows, maybe the next game is going to be about the writers. That also reminds us and begs the question, what the hell does Clair Obscur mean and what connects it to the story? Well, it's apparently a French art term that translates to light-dark, referring to the dramatic use of strong contrasts between light and shadow to give depth, tension, and emotion to a painting. This kind of symbolism is prevalent throughout the whole game. Much of the story is not explained directly and instead left up to the player's interpretation. Most players end up confused by the end of their first playthrough, needing additional runs or lore explanations. Grief is the heart of the narrative. Aline loses her son to a fire, and instead of healing, she clings to painting as a way to keep him alive. Her grief literally reshapes the world, turning into a cycle of expeditions and the role of the paintress. As for Renoir, instead of mourning, he responds with anger and control. His way of dealing with loss is to build monuments and trying to bend the world into something he can dominate. Ciel goes through a similar arc, but instead chooses to remain grounded. She tried to commit suicide in the past. That was her escape after her husband's untimely death. She tried to drown herself, but Eskie found her in the sea and rescued her. Of course, she never knew how she wound up ashore in Lumiere, but she's reminded upon her first meeting with Eskie, when he calls her his terrible swimmer friend. This also showcases Eskie's purity. Renoir's axons, meanwhile, are these towering symbolic beings painted into existence as weapons, monuments to his family, and instruments to tighten his control over the painted world. Each axon is both a reflection of the Desandra legacy and a tool in Renoir's relentless struggle against Aline. The Reacher represents Alicia. Reaching skyward symbolizes potential and hope, what Renoir wished his daughter would embody. Sirene represents Aline, a dancer, graceful yet bound to endless repetition, reflecting Aline's attempt to create beauty in her grief but becoming trapped in the performance. Visages represents Verso, a mask-shifting guardian of lies, reflecting Verso's identity crisis as a painted son who knows he isn't real. And the Hauler, representing Clair, the city on her back, the endless burden, and the Hauler being the only Axon to be defeated and already dead before Expedition 33. Of course killed by none other than Simon, a member of Expedition 0, an old friend of painted Verso and a man who loved the painted Clair and was close with her, but the real Clair had manipulated him into striking down the Axon. He later descended into the monolith and learned the full truth, realizing he could not save the painted Clair and that none of it was real. He's believed to have gone to fight Renoir with the intention of killing him, but in the end he succumbed to his influence and went mad. The godlike power that the real Clair granted him ended up turning him into the hardest friggin' boss fight of the entire game, an absolute spectacle to play and watch. Another example of the symbolism, at least in my eyes, is Gustave's appearance. How, when you take a good look at him, you think, he kind of looks like Verso, but he also looks like Renoir. Almost like this resemblance to both of them is on purpose. Maelle mentions several times throughout the game how Gustave is both a brother and a father to her. So hey, that's another cool little bit of on-the-nose symbolism for you. Of course, much of the narrative takes inspiration from some of the classic Final Fantasy games as well. It's not just the gameplay here that shaped what became Expedition 33. Some of the biggest examples here, and I will be getting into spoilers now for both Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X, so if you wish to not be spoiled, skip to the timestamp you see on the screen. Okay, few seconds, pause, and we're back. Gustave's death immediately takes me back to Aerith in Final Fantasy VII. I know you can't exactly use a death as an example here, but hear me out. Gustave's sudden death mirrors Aerith's in Final Fantasy VII almost beat for beat in its emotional function. Both characters are beloved, central members of the party, and both die midway through the story. Not at the climax, but at a moment when the player least expects it. Aerith's death absolutely stunned players back in 1997. To this day, it's one of the most emotional and shocking video game deaths that we've ever witnessed. And Gustave's death hits with the same gut punch. I can confidently say that this is this generation's Aerith scene. In Final Fantasy X, the world of Spira is locked in the cycle of sin. Every few years, the monster Sin returns, and only temporary reprieves through sacrifice keep the people alive. It's an endless loop of suffering and fleeting hope. Expedition 33's Gamage poses the same kind of idea. Just as the people of Spira live in dread of sin, Lumiere and the expeditions live under the yearly erasure of the Gamage. No one escapes it, no matter how hard they fight. In Final Fantasy X, Yevon maintains its authority by perpetuating the lie of the cycle. In Expedition 33, Renoir and Aline both become the faces of the cycle. He erases, she warns, but neither can break it. Just as Tidus and Yuna decide the cycle itself must end and discover the truth behind it, Expedition 33 discovers the truth behind theirs as well. And speaking of Tidus in Final Fantasy X, does painted Verso remind you of anybody? Maybe this is the clearest homage yet, but Verso's existential crisis parallels Tidus almost exactly in my eyes. Tidus is revealed to be a dream of the faith, not a real person. Verso is revealed to be a painting, a creation of Aline's grief, not the real son she lost. Both characters begin confident and headstrong, only to gradually unravel as they realize they're living borrowed lives. The knowledge doesn't paralyze them, it gives their actions more weight. Tidus falls in love with Yuna despite knowing he isn't real. Verso builds bonds with the expedition despite knowing he is only painted. Both arcs are defined by choosing to love and fight anyway. Tidus accepts his erasure to end Spira's cycle. Verso faces the same choice, except that killing the paintress means erasing himself, and do it anyway. The game is filled with motifs that mirror Final Fantasy's most iconic storytelling beats. As we already mentioned, Guillaume Broche, the director of Clair Obscur, spoke about how much he loved Final Fantasy as a kid and took inspiration from it, so this is no coincidence. Of course, with grief being one of the central themes of the game, the story never shies away from the weight of death and its finality. Loss isn't treated as something characters can simply move past. It lingers, reshapes, and defines them. Gustave's death, for instance, isn't undone or softened. It is permanent, and the party must carry that absence with them for the rest of their journey. While characters like Luna and Ciel returned from being Gamage thanks to Maelle's power as Alicia, one has to wonder why Gustave didn't return. Well, that's because he wasn't Gamaged. Since painted Renoir killed him, his chroma and his body were long gone by the time Maelle discovered her power. By the time her ending comes around, Renoir is expelled from the painting and she has full control. And that's how he's back there with Sophie. The impact of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has been startling, and in many ways it's reshaped expectations for what a small, passionate studio can achieve. In 33 days, the game reached 3.3 million copies in sales, a milestone that's so coincidentally awesome I can't even describe it. As of now, it's well over 4.4 million. With such a small team, all that passion, the limited resources, the ambition, and how beloved and critically acclaimed the game ended up being, it gives a lot of hope to indie and mid-sized teams that deeply personal, narrative-driven games can break out commercially, not just critically. And I'm praising the game without even talking about the soundtrack as well. Jesus Christ, fuck it, soundtrack montage! Every track is so beautifully put together. Lorien Testard outdid himself in a way I can't even describe. The incredible and beautiful haunting vocals from Elise Duport, the arrangements, the versatility, going from calm vocal melodies and acoustic guitars, to headbanging and screaming, jazzy pianos, the works. I love this soundtrack. I love this game, and I cannot wait to see what Sandfall cooks up in the future. Who knows, like I said, maybe the next installment in the Clair Obscur series could be about the writers. There's so much potential for exploration here. After all, we know fuck all about the real world aside from the Desandra family. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is what happens when a small passionate team comes together to birth an experience shaped by love, loss, grief, and the echoes of the JRPGs that inspired it. We've seen a resurgence with Metaphor ReFantasio last year and Expedition 33 this year, so hopefully this sparks a new era for these games. It's been a great year, and while I absolutely love Death Stranding 2, Silent Hill F, Monster Hunter Wilds, and Night Rain, this is my game of the year.